All right, folks, it is draft day. And now, look, normally I make videos with the Vancouver Canucks, but the Seattle Kraken coming into the NHL and will be a real competitor to the Vancouver Canucks this year in the same division, a real geographical rival. And it looks like they'll be selecting Kole Lind from the Vancouver Canucks. Now, a lot of leaks this morning. I think like 13 of the picks are already known out of the 30, and we still have about 7 hours to go, 8 hours to go before the picks are supposed to be revealed. So, Kole Lind will be the pick from the Vancouver Canucks, and this isn't a huge surprise. It looked like it was coming down to either Kole Lind, Braden Holtby, Jonah Gadjevich, or Zach McEwen, and we'll go into that a little bit more. While you're here, I'll be live at 5 o'clock on this channel with some expansion draft coverage. I'll be live at 10 o'clock on the Canucks After Dark channel, where Clay and I will go over the expansion draft a bit more. Both of those are linked down below. Now, Kole Lind makes sense here because it looked like they were going to go in the Braden Holtby direction, but just cap-wise, it didn't make a ton of sense, right? Holtby is due to make $4.3 million off the cap this year, and he would be maybe the starter for Kraken day one in a competition with Chris Driedger, but they would have to fit that money in under the cap. And with Kole Lind, he makes nothing, right? He makes enough money where you could 100% bury that in the AHL if he's not going to play for you. So worst case scenario, Seattle basically takes nothing from the Canucks. However, Kole Lind has shown in the past to be sort of a big second year guy. So if we look at his stats here, his first year in the WHL, 40 points in 70 games, kind of mediocre. But the next year he had 87 points in the same amount of games. So his second year in the WHL, turned it on and was excellent. He goes to Utica, only 17 points in 51 games, but then his second year, 44 points in 61 games. So he really looks like he's a sophomore stud. And most people have a sophomore slump. He's sort of the exact opposite. So for the Canucks, played 7 games this season, no points. Really didn't impress in the Vancouver roster. Didn't get a ton of ice time, to be fair, but he didn't really look like he was going to be the next coming of a real star NHL player. The reason I see them going with Lind instead of a guy like Zach McEwen, who's also cheap, Zach McEwen didn't have a great year this year. And when I say didn't have a great year, I mean like it was a pretty bad season. He was just all over the place, wasn't able to get much done. He's still only 25. So, you know, you still would be taking a decent bet on Zach McEwen, but I think at this point we kind of know what he is. Jonah Gadjevich might have a higher floor than Kole Lind, I might think. You know, I think Jonah Gadjevich is going to be your prototypical fourth liner, which has a real value in the NHL. But I think if you're the Kraken, you're picking quite a few guys who could have that fourth line value. So you want to go out and maybe get a guy who in Kole Lind might have second or a third scoring line upside and might be able to contribute in the NHL for you at some point, but also he might just end up falling out and not being able to stick in the NHL. So I think Lind has a higher ceiling than Gadjevich and McEwen, but he might also have a lower floor, a little bit of a higher risk, higher reward move from the Kraken. But at the end of the day, look, the pick for the Canucks didn't matter a ton for the Kraken. They're getting a guy who will probably play in the AHL for them or be sort of in the press box as a tweener. Probably not a good thing for Kole Lind's ice time. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's in my mind the right pick. It's what I expected in our mock draft that we did back on Sunday. It was my pick for the Kraken from the Canucks. And that is the direction they're going. Now, other picks are still literally just pouring in. There's so many of them. But I do have a list of all of them coming through here. We're going to go over all of them, like I said, at 5 o'clock tonight on our live expansion draft coverage. Even if all the picks are up by then, we'll have a good chance to talk through them all. Go over my thoughts and everything. We can get your opinions in chat on all of them. And then at 10 o'clock, we'll talk a lot more about how the Kole Lind pick impacts the Canucks, how this Seattle team could actually be a contender as soon as this season, or at least be enough to hurt the Canucks' playoff chances in the Pacific Division. Clay and I will talk about that in depth at 10 o'clock tonight. So make sure you're subscribed to me and Clay, both of those linked in the description. I'll see you tonight.